Hello and welcome to another Mindful Monday conversation with Dr. Kadochi and I. And today we're talking all things growth and resilience. Doc, how are you today?
I'm doing well. And how are you doing?
I am well too. Excited that it's a new month. It's my birthday month, so I'll be bubbly the whole month.
I know. We're in trouble this month. We're in trouble.
Yeah, and so today we're talking growth and resilience, as I have introduced. So I was thinking for the icebreaker, it's been a while. How about you share with us one of your childhood memories?
In relation to growth?
I think it can be in relation to growth, though. I don't know. A favorite one? I don't know.
All right. So over the years, I think with me getting in the public speaking space, mostly when I talk about my childhood, I usually refer to my stammering experiences. But this time, I want to focus on one other part that I usually don't talk about, which is me being an artistic child. I was always an artist. I would draw, paint, sketch. And I remember there was this one time, so I did have, or rather I have an auntie Mola. If you ever get this, if you ever get a chance to watch this, Auntie Mola. Yeah, Auntie Mola would always come with these, what were we calling them? The books where you sketch and paint. Sketchpad or something like that, And I was always looking forward to that because I knew that when she comes, she will bring that and I'll be able to draw and paint and all that. But that helped me in the sense that it made everybody know who I was and what I would, be able to do. To the extent that even when my mother opened her private school, her primary private school, I was the guy behind the charts. The whole school, the teaching aids, the walls, the cartoons, and all that because of art. So I do sketch, I do paint. That is something I think I need to revive.
That's interesting.
But I'm an artist.
You should make it like a hobby, something like it.
Yeah, so recently I bought that big drawing pad. And I'm slowly getting back. I'll show you.
Yeah, you should. I'm curious because I'm just thinking I'd like to see what that is. That's nice. Okay, growth and resilience.
Yeah.
We have looked a lot in this first part of our conversations at the relationship that everyone has with themselves. The relationship. We've also looked back on our own personal stories. For me, with boundaries.
Yeah.
And you also shared your story about discovering
who I am.
Who you are. But it's very important. It's one thing to discover who you are, set those boundaries, and quite another to build on that foundation that you do. So how do we ensure that we're our own safe space, a person that we can trust to grow and become the person that we want to be? Does that make sense?
I think it does.
Okay.
And as you were asking, something was coming to mind.
That's good. Get into it, please.
Do not hate the experiences that have made you. A lot of people despise what they've been through, the people that have contributed to, the hurts, the pain, and everything. But behind the hurts, the pains, and all that, if you use a different perspective, you realize that there's been a growth.
Absolutely.
There's been a level of wisdom. There's been a shift in how you appreciate and understand things. So when it comes to you outgrowing some of the things, you would need to at least understand that, those things happen, but they happen for you. As much as they are hurtful, I understand. And I'm speaking from a perspective where I sit down with different people through therapy, of course. And people have been through quite a number of things. But by the end of the day, there is something that they gain as a result of what they've been through. So do not hurt what you have been through, because that has contributed to the person you are. But if it hasn't yet, for those that may still be in that place of hurt, it will. That's why I say, as you are becoming, focus on who you could and should be. Because at times when you say, oh, I could have been that person if I didn't go through that. But it's possible that you could and should be that particular version that you felt you've lost as a result of what you went through.
You experienced. I love that. And how do we become that person? How do I mine treasure from the experiences that, especially because sometimes experiences are really good, but sometimes they're bad, like you have said, and then they lead you down a dark hole. How do I mine the treasure of the bad experiences to help me grow?
Okay, so John C. Maxwell, a quote that I'm using a lot these days. He says, sometimes we win, sometimes we learn.
I remember that from episode 2, I think.
And in the learning, we realize that you are still relevant despite the outcome of what you've gone through. So if you're still relevant, then what are the lessons that you can mine from what you've been through? So we love to say experience is the best teacher, but I always oppose that. It's not. It's examine the experiences that are the best teacher. Because you will go through something, and the next year, like, I went through this again. Why are we doing this again? But it's because you are not examining those experiences. So experience isn't the best teacher. It is examine the experiences. Because when you examine the experience, definitely you pick one or two things to help you grow. So how do we do that? Examine the experiences. That's number one. The second thing is we need to understand that life is a process, just as growth is part of that life process. Therefore, there are some things that will take some time. However, you need to be positioned for you need to be positioned for the opportunities that will come so that thing, happens. Then the most important thing is plan. If you don't plan to grow, if you don't plan to outgrow, you don't outgrow.
You get stuck.
It will not happen by chance. Your growth will not happen by chance. The only thing that grows is our body, because physiology is working. But if you don't plan to outgrow the hurt, you will not outgrow it.
You have to make that choice.
Most of the people ignore these things and they feel they're forgotten, but you just distracted yourself.
True.
Soon something will remind you of it, and you give a response you should have given 10 years ago when you are older, because that thing is still fresh. You just ignored it. So plan to outgrow the hurts, plan to outgrow the problems, plan to outgrow the drama, plan to outgrow the different things that will sabotage you. So if you really want to get out of that place and become better, plan. Now, what is a plan? A plan is a documented desire.
Does it always have to be documented?
Yes.
Because you forget. Okay.
It always has to be documented, because even the Bible says, write it down, make it plain,
and someone who will see it can also run with it.
But also so that you see it.
Because you are the one running with it anyway.
Yes.
So,
So most importantly, so that you see it, so that you are able to move with it. The other thing about documentation, and this is a habit I started quite early in life, and mine was worse. I would document even in video, like this.
I use audio, never video, but I'll turn on my voice recorder, whether it's journaling or
planning. So I'd record. And some time back, I was watching those videos. Oh my God.
You still have them?
I have them. No.
You should show me. I want to see.
I have them in my hard drive. So I watched one for 2015. I laughed out loud.
But tell me though, did you achieve what you set out to do?
I did, but I was amazed at how wise I was.
What are you saying? That you're not as wise anymore?
What I'm trying to say is that at that time, I was that wise, and I was just amazed.
Or were you just impressed that you were young?
I was impressed that I was young and wise.
Okay,
I think.
I hear you. Like, I'm amazed at how wise I was. I'm like, are you okay? Yeah.
Yeah, so record,
Yeah.
or rather document. It could be audio
Yeah.
or video like I
Yeah.
did, or even just writing down,
Yeah.
In a journal, because it helps you to be accountable.
True.
So looking back, I was like, wow, I'm glad I've achieved that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I had such a concern and I've worked it out.
Yeah.
I'm living evidence of plans that work.
Love
In
that.
as much as there are some other plans that may not work.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that I would like to mention about plans that don't work. When a plan doesn't work, it doesn't mean your purpose hasn't worked.
Okay, dwell there just a little more.
So we especially from the Christian side, we confuse purpose and plan. But even the Bible says the purposes and plans of God, it is plural. So one may work.
Preach.
one may work, one may not work, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you can't change the plan.
Yeah.
So the plan what work out the purpose.
Yeah.
So-
and those can be fluid.
And those can be fluid. So had a plan to go to Damascus to go and ruin the lives of the
More
Christians.
believers.
But then he started off, his plan was changed.
Yeah.
And the purpose also was magnified. He
Yeah,
understood
yeah.
what the purpose was.
Yeah.
So, same plan, different purpose. God came and corrected. In other words, he just aligned.
Course correct.
Course correct.
Yeah.
So there are times that even us in our lives, there will be some element of course correct. Course correct in our career, course correct in our relationships, course correct in our businesses. We should be flexible enough to understand that the fact that a plan hasn't worked doesn't mean
That
something,
the purpose hasn't worked.
the purpose hasn't worked.
Yeah.
We would need to just
Sometimes a failed
Change.
plan, like you have given the example of Saul turned Paul, is to lead you to purpose.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm trying to say it doesn't mean the purpose hasn't worked.
Failed, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's such a perfect example with Saul turned Paul, because he was very clear on what he was doing.
Yeah.
He thought he was on course with his purpose.
Yes.
But he was on a wrong plan,
On a wrong
which needed
plan.
to fail to
Yes.
get on course
Get on.
to do purpose
Yes.
on a different
On
plan.
a different
I
plan.
love that. I never
And
thought
growth
about that.
comes from there.
that. Okay.
So you outgrow that first plan and you get on the next plan.
Next one.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, you used a very interesting word earlier on in the conversation, and you talked about you should not self-sabotage.
Oh yes.
Would you like to tell us what it means to self-sabotage and like the ways that we do that?
That we do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I feel like all right, so firstly, self-sabotage
Yeah.
is when we come in our own way of what we want to achieve. And this is seen in a lot of ways. So firstly, let's say you plan that this year I'm going to save this much, or this year I'm going to invest this much. Okay, I'm going to ensure that I invest 50,000 or 60 or 30,000, whatever figure. But then due to different demands that come your way, you begin to give excuses and validate those demands that are coming. And as you're validating that in your mind, there are excuses for not committing to the investments. So okay, you remove a 10,000 and you use it for those demands that are coming.
Yeah.
That's an example of self-sabotaging. You are sabotaging,
Standing
in the way of what you had planned to.
Yeah.
That's just one example on the financial side. On the growth aspect, a lot of people do not plan again. And somewhere, I don't know who said this, that if you don't plan to, if you fail to
Plan?
you plan to fail. Yeah.
You're planning either
You're
way.
planning either way, yes. So we do this as well for growth because, I mean, we're busy, work, and everything else that occupies, our mind. But then we always give an excuse of overwhelm. And yes, I'm knocking off at this time. Now I cannot do the extra curricular activities that I plan to do. For example, you say, this month I'm going to gym. Starting gym, I'll be going at 6 p.m. after work.
Yes.
But it's common and normal that after work you're likely to be tired.
Your mind is drained.
Your mind is drained.
Yeah.
And there you are saying, I'm tired, I'll go tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of self-sabotaging. You're standing in the way of your commitments. So here's the thing about self-sabotage. How we can work that out, we need to begin to build capacity to handle the plans.
Yeah.
Because whatever new thing you want to do will require a particular capacity to handle it. Now, have you prepared for that capacity? It's the same way when we're praying for what we are praying for. We need to prepare for that thing. We need to prepare the environment for that thing. Otherwise, it won't come. We can't desire to harvest where we've been planted. So even when we're praying for something, we need to begin to develop the mindset that can handle the answer to our prayer. But oftentimes we expect things just fall like manna. And we expect things should fall like manna. We sabotage. We end up giving all these excuses. No, I think I'm tired today. The whole week you look back and like, boys,
where did the time go?
And so you end up not doing these
what you
things.
set out to
Yes,
do.
it's the same in relationships. At times, it could be that you have this perfect partner, but because you don't know what receiving real love is, or you haven't had that love that is so peaceful, reassuring, and all that, you begin to question, is this guy even real?
Yes.
Shouldn't he be upset at some
Now
point?
I'm starting to feel attacked.
Shouldn't he be upset at some point? And now you begin to question, and now you begin to find faults in this person.
Don't be like that.
We're not deleting anything.
Okay.
And so you begin to find faults, and that's self-sabotaging
That's
because
self-sabotage.
you are not ready for what you are desiring.
You don't have the capacity.
The capacity, absolutely.
To receive love, to give love.
Yeah. So having the capacity is growth.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
need to grow to accommodate the realities of what you demand.
Absolutely.
But a few people
see that.
don't do
Yeah,
that.
I see
Yeah.
that. I see that. Anyway, you talked about something very important just now when you talk about capacity, and you talked about an environment and the analogy of a garden and planting.
Yeah.
Let's briefly touch, before we close, the growth mindset and the fixed mindset and the importance of mindset for the things that you have taught us today.
Okay, so in psychology, there's what we call the cognitive triad. The cognitive triad basically means, or rather talks about three important things. First is our thoughts, our feelings, and behavior. And you should understand it in a triangle. So on top, thoughts, feelings, behavior. So what the cognitive triad stipulates is that our thoughts influence our feelings, and our feelings influence our behavior. However, the thoughts come from a mindset. So if the mindset is about growth, you're likely to experience thoughts that will trigger feelings of growth, feelings that will trigger behavior of growth. Because that cognitive triad of thoughts, feelings, behavior simply helps us to learn that if you have sad thoughts, you feel sad and you behave sad. If you have wrong thoughts, you feel wrong and you behave wrong. If you have negative thoughts, you feel negative, you think negative, feel negative, and behave negative. And that's just life.
Simple.
So if you now have a positive thought, you feel positive and behave positive. So why am I saying this? Fixed mindsets, growth mindsets will trigger thoughts that are fixed. And thoughts that are fixed contribute to self-sabotage. Why? Because if you have a fixed mindset, you don't see possibilities in certain situations. You don't see the probabilities of you outgrowing certain challenges. Even when you have debt, most people that commit suicide, because of debt. They, in that moment, it's a fixed mindset at work because it's fixed
Like it's
that
a dead end.
yes, I can't get out of this. So that's where the thoughts are being originated from, and they now feel those feelings that validate that their life will not change. Things are getting worse. Everybody will find out. So before they find out, let me not be here. So the behavior, in that sense. So how do we then have a growth mindset? How do we move from fixed to growth perspective?
Yeah.
Perspective is key.
Perspective.
So our perspective speaks to possibilities. So are we having a perspective that is allowing us to look at things differently? We're having a perspective that is just keeping us hostage of or in the situation. So we need to challenge our perspectives. And even in therapy, when it comes to perspectives, we first help people understand the cognitive triad. Your thoughts will influence how you feel.
Yeah.
And how you feel influence how you behave. So that is where we now come in to tailor the actual situation into the cognitive triad and help them to see the better ways of thinking, better ways of interpreting the situation. Because a lot of things to do with mindset and growth have to do with interpretation of situations. For example, we shot an episode of what we're doing. Let me bring this up.
Please
a week
explain.
ago.
Yes.
This is a reshoot.
This is a reshoot of that.
And trust me, we loved what we talked
loved
about in the first episode. But because we always don't have scripts, by the way.
Yeah.
This is just a conversation
like
we call it.
Just chat.
So we loved what we had recorded. However, we lost that video due to technical issues. We lost that video. But then if we have a fixed mindset, we would say, no, it won't work.
Yeah. And then we give that up.
And we give up because we feel our maybe village people,
they came in, they don't see us
or technology is not against is against us. And so we would find these reasons,
and sometimes they'll be valid,
and sometimes they'll feel valid. And we wouldn't have come back to sit down
and redo
what we felt we did better. But here we are, because we have a growth mindset and we believe that we are capable of doing something better this time around. And here we are. Growth mindset allows you to see outside the shell that you may be in.
Love that. Thank you. Thanks. I even forgot that.
We cried.
Last week. So maybe just to share like characteristics from the book club that we did. Like characteristics of a growth mindset is enjoying, learning and growing, viewing failure as an opportunity to learn, being inspired by other people's success rather than being intimidated by it, and believing that effort leads to achievement.
True.
So those are the 4 characteristics I thought that I could share.
Effort leads to achievement. I like that.
Effort leads to achievement, because a lot of people in the fixed mindsets are very outcome oriented.
Yes.
People with a growth mindset are effort oriented. It's who am I becoming to achieve what I want, to achieve what I want, and even rather who am I becoming to become the person I want to be. More than a lot of fixed mindset people are those that you hear how much.
What will I get out of
Usually
this?
that's a telltale sign. While growth mindset people are, how can I serve, what needs to be done, because they know that
they're in it
for the work, and
they're in it for the work. They know that the process will not leave them the same.
No, it won't.
So they value that,
and
I'm like that.
Absolutely. 100%. You're always eager to serve. That's very true about you, actually. In fact, I think you embody servant leadership. You embody servant leadership. There's very like choleric people who are go. Well, I mean, you also have that, but like you embody servant leadership.
But I'm not choleric.
Thankful.
I refuse. No, there's nothing wrong with being choleric. I'm just.
It's just because it's on the other spectrum for you. And
Yeah,
it could be overwhelming.
yeah.
But I think I do have choleric.
No, you do
traits.
have. You do have.
It's not my primary, though.
I understand. I'm sanguine.
But, yeah.
I'm sanguine, but it's not my primary.
Yeah.
Yeah, my primary is phlegmatic,
Yeah.
which gives me the introversion side.
Yeah.
Yes. Yours is melancholic, which gives you the introversion side.
I have a melancholy side, but I feel anyway.
Wait, let's chill.
No, I'm a sanguine. I think it's my
No, you're sanguine and choleric.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, you're sanguine and choleric. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think sanguine is my primary.
Sorry, that's why we click.
Yes.
My sanguine side and your sanguine side.
Yes,
Yeah,
we get
I
all.
get you.
Yes,
I get you.
but yes, then there's a very real choleric side.
Choleric side. No, that I know.
To me,
that
where it's just like
I know.
we need to do this and we need to do it
That
now.
I know.
Yeah.
And Nanji knows how to bring it out.
Yeah.
Shout out, Nancy.
Hi, Nanji. Yeah, so I think that's all we had for growth.
Yeah.
I recommend that you read Carol S. Dweck on mindset. It's a big read, but it's an easy read. on mindset.
Okay. I think I know that, but I haven't just read it.
Yeah,
But
but it's a good read.
It's a good read.
Yeah, it's an easy read. It's what we read in the book club last month, and
good.
it's a good read. So unless you have any final thoughts
To
on
those
mindset, on resilience,
to those that are trying to start their personal journey, investing in knowledge is important. And if you struggle to read, there's a coach here.
Oh yes.
There's a coach here.
Join the
This
growth community.
now, as you are joining the growth community, there's one thing about Ope you should understand. She's a strategic planner. She knows how to break things down into bit size
Thank
to
you.
accommodate anyone who thinks reading is just so much
Overwhelming.
Yeah, she's able to do that.
You. Oh,
Yes,
that's kind
so
of you. Yeah, so
join.
you see, I come highly recommended to join the
Yes,
growth.
please join the growth
community.
club and read books
That-
that will be able to just shift your perspective on a
Yeah.
lot of things, and growth is happening in that community.
It really is. I like the reviews that we got from our yesterday's meeting. How people were like, "I feel like I'll have my life in control again."
Yeah.
There's just so many. Like I have I'm aware of my procrastination, and
Yeah.
now I'm working on it because we do 3 daily wins now.
Oh,
Where you do a
okay.
physical win,
Physical
mental
win.
win, spiritual win, mandatory
Good.
every day. So now
Good.
it's like because you have it in the back of your mind,
Yeah.
it's spilling over to other areas of your life, and it's
Awesome.
been a good
Awesome.
4 months, and just seeing people grab onto it's frustrating when they're getting into it.
But eventually it works.
So yeah, that's nice. I
Yeah,
like
please do join the Mindpreneur Book
that.
Club,
Yeah, do join us.
and you will never be the same.
You will never. No, thanks a lot. It's always good to be here.
All right.
Until the next
Till
one.
the next one. See ya.
Bye.